The sky was quiet at first. Just streaks of orange sunlight stretched across the horizon as the world below woke up. But in that stillness, a call came through the radio, a desperate, crackling voice of a young pilot losing control of his jet. Engines failing, fuel leaking, fear breaking through every word. And that was the moment the forgotten name of a woman buried in the shadows of history was about to roar back into life. Her name was Captain Elena Ramirez. To most of the world, she was just a retired Air Force mechanic, a middle-aged woman living a quiet life on the edge of a small desert town. To her neighbors, she was kind but private, always seen with a distant look in her eyes, like part of her had stayed somewhere far above the clouds. Nobody knew the whole truth, not even the young recruits who sometimes came to her for advice. Because Elena wasn't just any mechanic. Years ago, she had been one of the best test pilots the Air Force had ever trained. A woman who pushed jets to their limits, flying through conditions others wouldn't dare. She had saved lives, improved aircraft designs, and even written emergency protocols still used by pilots today. But when a training accident cost her team their lives, she carried the guilt so heavily that she walked away. The Air Force remembered her as a brilliant officer with a tragic past. But outside of that, she was forgotten. Until that morning, the call came in from a struggling F-16, flown by a fresh recruit named Lieutenant Harris. His bird was failing fast. Systems were collapsing, and the base he was near had no senior commanders on site. The tower scrambled, calling every experienced pilot within range. But the one who answered wasn't in uniform anymore. Elena was sipping her morning coffee when her old radio scanner buzzed with static. Out of habit, she kept it on, even though years had passed since she last touched a cockpit. She heard his voice, raw, shaking. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Falcon 27, engine failure, losing altitude, request immediate assistance." Her heart clenched. She knew that panic. She knew that fear. And she also knew the silence that followed, a silence that meant nobody was close enough, or qualified enough, to talk him through it. Without thinking, Elena reached for her mic. Her hands trembled, but her voice came out strong, steady, carrying the authority of someone who had been there. "Falcon 27, this is Echo 1. I've got you. Stay calm. Breathe. We're going to bring you home." The base hesitated when they heard her call sign. Echo 1. It was a name not spoken for years, a call sign that had once belonged to a legend. And now, somehow, she was back on the frequency. Harris' voice cracked. "Echo 1. I don't think I can." "Yes, you can," Elena cut in, her tone firm but calm. "Listen to me. I've been exactly where you are. Trust me, and trust your training." She guided him step by step, checking gauges, cutting fuel to the right engine, switching to backup hydraulics. Every move she told him was something she had once tested herself, back in the days when jets were pushed to their breaking point in simulations. She didn't just know the aircraft, she knew its soul. Meanwhile, officers at the nearby base scrambled to trace the voice. Some didn't believe it at first. Others stood in stunned silence as they realized the woman guiding the young pilot was someone who should have been in the history books. As Harris descended lower, alarms blaring, his voice shook again. "I can't hold it. She's pulling down." "Yes, you can." Elena's voice rose, sharp like a commander's, but full of fire. "You're not alone, Lieutenant. Pull level. Feel her weight. Don't fight it, guide it. Trust her, she wants to fly." And against all odds, the jet responded, slowly, steadily, miraculously. The tower broke into cheers as the F-16 leveled, clearing the mountain ridge it was about to crash into. Harris' breathing steadied, and his voice softened with disbelief. I've got her under control." Elena closed her eyes, tears burning. "Good. Now bring her home. 1 mile at a time." Minutes later, the jet landed safely, skidding to a stop on the runway. Harris climbed out, trembling, alive. And as soon as he hit the ground, he asked the question on everyone's lips. Who was Echo 1? The answer spread like wildfire. Officers who had only heard whispers of her past filled in the gaps. Soldiers dug up the files. Reporters came knocking. And suddenly, the world began to learn the truth, that an unknown woman had been a legend all along, a hero who had once saved countless lives through her test flights, her knowledge, and now, once again, through her voice. When they offered her medals again, she shook her head. She didn't want recognition. What she wanted was to remind young pilots like Harris that mistakes don't define you, and fear doesn't mean failure, it means you're still human. That night, Harris himself came to her doorstep. He stood tall, still in his flight suit, but his eyes were soft with gratitude. You saved my life. But not just mine. You saved every pilot who will learn from this. Elena smiled faintly. For the first time in years, the weight on her shoulders seemed lighter. No, Lieutenant, you saved yourself. I just reminded you how. The Air Force reinstated her not as a combat pilot, but as an instructor, a voice in the tower, and a mentor for the next generation. And though her story had been hidden in silence for years, now it echoed across bases, classrooms, and cockpits. Because sometimes, legends don't wear medals. Sometimes, legends are the voices that steady your hand when the sky is falling apart. And Captain Elena Ramirez, Echo 1, was finally recognized for who she truly was. Not just a pilot, not just a survivor, but an Air Force legend who proved that even when forgotten, true greatness never fades.